The woman suddenly received a phone call from herself, 20 years in the future. It told her 3 secrets. The first was that her husband had already betrayed her. It urged her to divorce her husband as soon as possible. The second was that the 2 children she had adopted were actually the children of her husband and his mistress. It told her to prepare in advance. The third was to advise her to buy a house immediately, as many as possible. The woman's first reaction was disbelief, because she had been married to her husband for 20 years, and they had always been loving toward each other. But this phone call still unsettled her heart. She asked her best friend, who was sitting beside her, whether her husband could possibly betray her. Her friend held her hand and told her not to overthink it. Her husband loved her deeply. He could never betray her. Just then, her husband came home from work and brought roasted duck, just because the night before, she had casually mentioned wanting to eat roasted duck. He had remembered it in his heart. The woman was touched. At the same time, she felt guilty. Her husband treated her so well, yet she had doubted him just because of a strange phone call. But just as she helped her husband take off his coat, she noticed that on his clothes was a strand of long hair from another woman. The woman couldn't help but recall that phone call again, but at that moment, her adopted daughter came back home and threw her arms around her father, acting spoiled. The woman comforted herself, thinking that the hair must belong to her adopted daughter. At that moment, her adopted daughter turned to her mother and asked her to tell her uncle to get her 2 concert tickets. The woman advised her that the college entrance exams were coming soon, and she should focus on her studies, but the adopted daughter immediately shoved her mother, angrily blaming her for being too stingy. She even said her mother couldn't have children of her own, and had adopted her, so she should spend all her money on her. Her adopted daughter's attitude once again unsettled her heart. Her husband quickly scolded the girl, and told his wife not to take a child's words to heart. The adopted daughter immediately apologized to her mother, saying that she'd been too stressed with studying lately, so her temper was bad. She hugged her mother, and the woman's worries were once again set aside. The next day, at the dining table, her husband told her that he had run into some trouble while running for chief inspector. His rival had an uncle in a leadership position, so he needed her 2 older brothers to help. At that moment, their adopted son walked over. The man told his wife again that their adopted son was about to graduate from college, and suggested sending him to his uncle's company for an internship. With his uncle's support, his future would be secure. The woman told her adopted son that he was still young and shouldn't always think about relying on connections. He needed to gain more experience on his own, but the adopted son immediately scowled, accusing his mother of refusing to help him. He didn't even eat his meal and stormed off. The woman once again thought of that phone call and became uneasy again. She decided to investigate where that call had come from. She asked her friend to go with her to check the phone.